In the Division, there are a bunch of different builds that people use, and most of them are the same exact build. Most of them are well, nowadays, it's the Intimidate with Adrenaline Rush, with the Lady Death, Shield, and whatever else skill you want. But today I'm not talking about one of those builds. I'm talking about this build right here. This, my friends, is the Spotter Scope build. So, as the name implies, it relies heavily on this talent right here, Spotter, which amplifies total weapon and skill damage by 15% to pulsed enemies. This is a massive, well, not a massive, but a pretty good increase, especially with, assault rifles that don't do as much damage, but do good damage. Now, as I go through this build, just like always, I'm gonna say some things that you can also put on that will also work good with this build, and some other things like that. So first off, let's start off with what gear or brands you're gonna want to have on. So for this, if you look at my stats right here, I have 53.1 critical hit chance and 121.5 critical hit damage. This is because I have a group of Sombra piece, a Seska piece, and then I also have the Contractor's Gloves, which give me damage to armor. On this, I have 13% damage to armor. Now, in PvP, damage to armor is probably the best thing other than, damage to targets out of cover. So, honestly, preferably have Contractor's Gloves on, but you can also have Fox's Prayer on instead. No matter what, these two brands aren't really going to make a difference just because, well, one, you have Petrov Defense, and we're not using LMGs here, and the other one is the Fox's Prayer, and we're not using rifle damage, or any rifles. But, what you do want to have on is one Fenris piece. That will give you assault rifle damage, which, as you can see, we're using assault rifles. For the weapons, what you want to have on is the Carbine 7 and the Honey Badger. Well, preferably. Carbine 7 is a monster, as you can see in the videos that I'm going to be posting after this. It has a base damage of 86.5k. Well, no, it doesn't have a base damage, but with all of the different weapon damage and increases in damage whatsoever, it's going to be around 86.5k. Then once you have this amplified by 15%, you're going to have it around 90k. 90k is very good for an assault rifle. Especially because, the Pestilence does 86k, and that's an LMG with damage to targets out of cover. And that continues hitting it. Plus, usually you want to have Optimist or Sadist on, so that way you can get that, or not Sadist, Strained on, so that way you can get that increased weapon damage or increased critical hit damage. I also have the Honey Badger, which has Strained, and also I have critical hit damage on this. Now, for the Carbine 7, I have Rate of Fire on this. You can put this with armor, or damage to armor, or damage to targets out of cover. Either one really works, but Rate of Fire just seems pretty good because, it upgrades it from 800 to 829. That is a big increase for a assault rifle. So, let's go through the stats. So on here, you want to try and get critical hit chance and critical hit damage. And then the mod slot, you want to fill out with critical hit chance. For the backpack, you want to try and get the Matador. If you don't have Matador, get anything with Adrenaline Rush on it, and hopefully it's Walker and Harrison. You can switch all of these brands up. You can put a Walker and Harrison for the holster and a Walker Harrison for the mask, but you always want to have at least the talent Spotter and at least the talent Adrenaline Rush. Most other builds use Vigilance instead of Adrenaline Rush, But whenever you're in close combat with somebody, because the meta is a rusher build, whenever you're in close combat with somebody, this has saved me countless times, just giving you that extra 23% bonus armor. Plus, they have defender drones, and they have turrets, and they have all sorts of random stuff that go really good with it. So, it gives you max 69% bonus armor, which I must say is nice. Now, for the Contractor's Gloves, you want to have armor on this, critical hit damage preferably. You want to have 3 armor pieces in total, because that gives you a balanced out at 1.3 mil, with also 3 weapon damage, which gives you 45% weapon damage. That's really good. For this, preferably instead of armor regen and headshot damage, I would like critical hit chance and critical hit damage, but it didn't come with it, so oh well. And then mod slot for critical hit chance. You want to have most of these as critical hit chance, because that will up this, which will give you a lot more chances to get critical hits. Critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and crit damage. And this one has hazard protection, but this was one of the only ones that I could really find with armor, that I could really put armor on, that had a decent, stable critical hit damage. Now, for the skills, this is pretty big. Shields. Shields are the meta. Really wish they would nerf it, but I mean, what can you really do? Because we're using this with the specialization technician, which I will come back to later, you can't put on the striker shield, which in all fairness is one of the most OP shields in the game overall, just because of that little extra damage boost. But the Crusader shield is almost as good, just it doesn't give you that extra damage. And because we have 3 armor pieces, it's at tier 4, which gives you plus 40% active regeneration, plus 150 shield health, and plus 20% holster regeneration. That's pretty good for a tier 4. Then for the second one, you want the scanner pulse, because remember, you have spotter on, which means you get weapon damage based on pulsed enemies. So if you go to this, you go down, it's at tier 1, which just means it has plus 15% effect duration, but that's fine. As long as you are able to pulse them for an okay amount of time, you're fine. Alright. The pistol, I don't really care what you put on it. Just put whatever you want on it. It doesn't really matter. Now, finally coming to the main event, the Technician Specialization. The Technician Specialization plays a major role because of the fact that... Hold on, let me walk in here. Because of the fact that, if you look at it, you get this if you upgrade your This Is My Rifle to tier 3. You get the linked-in laser pointer. It's a technician laser pointer that pulses targets at which is aimed. That is massive. Because now, whenever you aim at somebody, they automatically get pulsed and you automatically get that plus 15% weapon damage. Honestly, if they nerf the Crusader shield, you might be able to put something on there that does skill damage, so that would apply to both the skill and the assault rifle. So overall, that's really good. Spotters are really good talent to have. So if you find just a random piece that has spotter on it, I suggest adding that to your recalibration library. But yeah, this is mostly the build, and I'll show you some gameplay of it right now.